Hey there. So, I'm going to start kind of a different series here where we are going to be reading together and I'm going to make some commentary on top of a specific book. And let's see, it's going to be the first time we try something like this. The specific book in this case is this one, the Archeometer. I couldn't find a proper English version, translated English version of this book. It's the original, it's French and it's quite old. I ended up finding one last week or something, but it's for academics, so it's like extremely expensive, not necessarily something everyone could buy, and probably not that many copies out there. So the goal is to translate it. I'm gonna be translating the Portuguese version that I have here from publisher Madras, which is really good. If you know Portuguese or you happen to live in Brazil, go try to find this. There should be things on Amazon that you can buy. And yeah, this book is really nice, goes deep into Kabbalah and a lot of different systems, which, as you can see here, is the purpose of the thing. So the name of it in English would be something like The Key to All Religions and All Sciences of Antiquity. So it's a really scientific thing here. It's really nice. You're going to understand a lot of the stuff that I talk about in the videos. So with all of that being said, I don't think for this specific video we're going to need this view right here of the book, only when we find some images or something that I want to show you. So for now, let's turn this off. Let's also turn off my camera and let's go straight into reading. So my idea here is for us to read along, and then I can make any commentary whenever I think we should have something. So let me close this. Let me close this right here as well. And let's start with some notes. So this is again the Brazilian version, so it has a lot of commentary already, and I'm gonna read it so you have some context on why this book and who's this guy behind it and so on and so forth. So let's go. Saint-Yves D'Alveydre, or whatever, how you pronounce his name. The Man and the Mission. So when you consult, in consulting Brazilian and French dictionaries and encyclopedias, it's extremely rare and sparring references are found for the term synarchy. Frame's most famous encyclopedia, La Rose de something, from the 1900s, define it as follows: simultaneous government of various princes who rule different parts of a state. So, very interesting here. We may consider this as a meager and overly simplistic definition for the study of the system devised by this guy, Saint-Yves. A complex and uncommon work, conceived by a man of great learning linked to the ancient traditions. He did not belong to any occultist school, reclusive, and devoted to his own studies. He left behind only a few faithful disciples, in addition to his thought, recorded in various works. Mission des Juifs, which is Mission of the Jews, Mission of the Indians in Europe, Mission of Europe in Asia, Mission of the something, not sure, La France Vraie, and the Archeometer, which is the one we are reading. So, the synarchy. The synarchy is a program of action and political renewal based on analysis of social reality, according to which every human community, considered as a closed organism, must to be satisfactory, being tuned with and harmoniously correspond to the three main functions that exist in each human being. Okay, so this is how they are trying to explain, how Saint-Yves is trying to explain synarchy. So as humans, as a community, being considered an organism. And if you think about it, if the universe is made of fractals, so whenever you see at the skies, that old saying, right, as above, so below. So whatever you see at your body is the same as you see in society, which is the same as you see in the planet, which is the same as you see in the solar system, and so on and so forth. So you can consider a community of humans being a closed organism. It should have these three things right here. So examined by Saint-Yves, these three functions acquire the dimension of a social biology. So the first function, which is the foundation, corresponds to the human body and its nutrition, referring to society's economy. The second social function corresponds to activity, will, and the soul. It ensures relationships among men through legislations and politics. The third, the spirit, pertains to science, religion, and education, which must guide all human activity as they pursue humanity's higher goals. From this simple scheme, tirelessly promoted by Saint-Yves, comes the second essential idea of the system, addressing how each of these functions should be represented in the specific institutions that will manage and foster them. The three social powers should coexist harmoniously without one dominating the other. Hence, the more fitting definition of synarchy, the government of a state, authority exercised by several individuals or several groups at the same time. Now, with that quick introduction, I'm gonna have to leave something out here. This book has a lot of political stuff on it, from this guy's ideas and his disciples and devotees and so on. A lot of that isn't necessarily something that I endorse or don't endorse or whatever. That's not the point. The point is to read that to understand the context behind why the guy is speaking about what he's speaking. Because remember, everything that we read has multiple layers to it. So if we don't understand the context behind, we cannot understand everything that he's trying to talk about. And eventually we'll get to the actual thing, which is the Archeometer, which is a tool for you to understand how the relationships between specific astrology signs and specific alphabet letters and specific sounds and colors and so on work. So his idea is that this key is the same thing that is being talked about in all the different religions, which people just give different names to things. Like the solar god in one place is going to be called Apollo, in another place Horus, in another place, or Osiris, in another place is going to be Christ or whatever. You're just going to name the same thing differently. So the idea is that if you have this Archeometer, you can understand what's really going down there, and then you can use it. You can use it to in your work as an architect, in your work as a musician, anything. Okay, so that's the idea of the system, but it's cool as well to read this political stuff to give you some context. So, another thing. Agartha, the hidden city. Another highlight in Saint-Yves' work is the reference to Agharta, the hidden city, where from immemorial times the initiates of Padessa preserve and perpetuate extraordinary knowledge. Its name, Agartha, means impervious to violence, inaccessible to anarchy. In Sanskrit, language widely used by Saint-Yves in formulating his theories, Agartha means impossible to find. Saint-Yves was not the first to mention Agartha. Prior to him, Louis Jacolit had already referred to it in Historia des Vierges, or whatever, this is in French, drawing on an Indian folk tradition. In 1924, Ferdinand Ossendowski published Beasts, Men, and Gods, which describes his journey through Central Asia in 1920, and his descriptions closely parallel those of Saint-Yves. Other authors also speak of Agartha, such as Raymond Bernard in The Hollow Earth, Andrew Thomas in Shambhala, The Mysterious Tibetan Civilization, and the erudite Kabbalist René Guénon in The King of the World. The arguments and similarities among these authors' ideas lead us to seriously consider the existence of a most ancient tradition evidenced by the collective testimony of an entire Asian population that somewhere in the world there is a quote-unquote holy land, a mighty center of cosmic radiation guarded by the true initiatic schools, visited to this day only by extraordinary men and by its supreme leader, known in India as Yagradvipa, or however this is pronounced. So, let's quickly talk about this. Yes, there are cities which we cannot access, not only because they are outside of our maps, but because they are outside of our frequency range. So just like radio, you cannot see it, just like the mobile data, you cannot see it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Okay? So there are indeed And a lot of them, again, they're probably named differently, but are the same. This is not the only one. You also have in Brazil people from a religion called Spiritism, that they mention some kind of place that they all go towards afterward, and so on and so on. So you have in many different places this concept, right? So it's not some kind of heaven, the idea that you are there forever, but more so, okay, you're not in your body anymore and you stay there. But even, as we're gonna see here, you can travel there while alive. Okay, so let's continue. Having visited Agartha countless times in altered states of consciousness, Saint-Yves does not reveal its location for security reasons. It is enough for our readers to know that in certain regions of the Himalayas, among 22 temples that represent the 22 arcana of Hermes and the 22 letters of certain sacred alphabets, Agartha forms the mystical zero, the impossible to find. Yet he describes it, piquing his readers' curiosity. The sacred territory of Agartha is independent, synarchically organized, and composed of a population that rises to nearly 20 million souls. The wisdom and the existence of Agartha are revealed to the occultist Saint-Yves, who delineates the city's profile as one that is university-like by vocation, since its inhabitants devote themselves mainly to study and personal evolution. Very similar to what the Spiritism guys talks about. Saint-Yves continues, such justice reigns there that the son of the last of the pariahs can be admitted to the sacred university. Offenses are amended without prison or police. The universal language spoken there is Vatan, which is also present on the Archeometer. Agartha's organization is circular. Its districts are laid out in concentric circles. In one of these circles, 5,000 pandits or sages dwell. Their number of 5,000 corresponds to the Hermetic reasons of the Vedic language. He goes, describing a solar circumscription of 365 Bhagvandas, then another 21 black and white archees. The circle closest to the mysterious center is made up of 12 gurus, each with 7 names, hierograms, or mantrams of 7 celestial, earthly, and infernal powers. You can start to see how all the Kabbalah starts here by all the specific numbers and how they are named and so on and so forth. Finally, at the center lives the sovereign pontiff, the Brahmatma, and his 2 assistants, the Mahatma and Mahanga. Note that Saint-Yves does not designate the supreme leader of Agartha as the king of the world, but presents him as a sovereign pontiff. The pontificial nature refers to the head of an initiatic hierarchy, and the term pontiff, meaning bridge builder, derives from a Masonic title of the highest degrees, in which the pontiff is a builder of bridges between humans and the great architect of the universe. This I'll talk about in the video about the Fool, okay? Building of bridges. That's a really nice concept. The ultimate goal of true religion is to connect, even on the word, right? Religare, reconnect, make the connection between earth and heavens. To build the bridge, again, with the solar or Christic spark within us. Again, this is Tiferet, guys. Sun. Most of religions are just sun worship. Brahmatma, the High Pontiff, means protection of souls in the spirit of God. His 2 assistants are Mahatma, representing the universal soul, and Mahanga, symbol of the entire material organization of the cosmos. A hierarchical division present in other mystery schools, represented by the ternary, spirit, soul, and body. We also have Keter, Bina, and Chokhmah, and so on. You also have in the whole tree, right? We have spirit as Keter, we have all the bodies, all the spheres, minus Malkut as the soul, and the body as Malkut. I also talked about this in the video about the Hierophant, I think. Applied by Saint-Yves in line with the constitutive analogy of the microcosm and microcosm. In Sanskrit, these words refer to principles and can be only applied to human beings insofar as they align with these same principles and are connected to functions rather than individualities. Also noteworthy is the description of this mysterious circle formed by 12 gurus who represent the supreme initiation and correspond to the zodiacal band. Again, it's always in the stars, because whatever's up there we cannot corrupt. Okay? This structure is likewise found in the Dalai Lama's circular council, formed by the 12 great Namsahans, or in the West, among the Knights of the Round Table. Saint-Yves continues his account. In the underground cells, countless Vidyas study. There, the student feels the invasion of the invisible. Little by little, holy visions illuminate his dreams or open his eyes. A library of many thousands of kilometers stretches beneath all of Asia, containing only books engraved on stone in characters indecipherable to the common man. I'll let you think for a second. How different would be your life if you were illiterate? Now remember that in Egyptian times, the architects, the guys building everything, I'm not talking about the pyramids, because in Egypt times they were already built, but I'm talking about, again, bridges, aqueducts, like blades, everything. You needed to write and read to be able to do stuff, and most people couldn't do it. So this is the first magic, okay, that most of us have to learn how to read. That's it. But you take for granted this because you were born in a world already where you have cell phones and everything, where you saw everything evolving, right? But this is an extreme power to be able to read whatever was on this guy's mind right now, like I'm doing. It's basically like I'm talking to him. Okay, so it's a crazy thing. You don't ever stop to think about it. But let's continue. It is impossible to move them. Memory must preserve their image. So they're talking about the characters, okay? Impossible to move them. At the end of the initiation, every initiate is able to see a pyramid of fire forming in ethereal space, constituted by the spiritual flame of the souls of Agartha, a pyramid encircled by a ring of cosmic light. Seems to me they're speaking about the Merkaba here, but I'm not sure. Saint-Yves further clarifies that Agartha is the inheritance of an ancient solar dynasty. Again, comes back to the sun. Sadhya Vansha, which formerly resided in Ayodhya, or whatever, identifiable as the same solar citadel of the Rosicrucians, or the city of the sun of Campanella, tracing its origins back to Vaivasvata, I think, the Manu of our current cycle. Saint-Yves remains circumspect about discussing his mystical ecstasies, which may fit the popular definition of astral projection, like I was saying. Out-of-body experiences, so you don't need to die to go there. Out-of-body journeys in which his spirit is taken to Agartha and other initiatic schools in other dimensions. I wouldn't 100% agree that it's the spirit being taken here, but more so the soul, but that's fine. Or perhaps that's only my point of view. You don't have to agree. Or perhaps even the physical plane of Earth, as Saint-Yves himself suggests. In the words of the mystic Saint-Yves, the epopte, so an initiate, okay, receives the secret of awakening while the body sleeps. In the mysteries, the third or final part of the sacred rites is called epoptia, or revelation. They say Kabbalah means revelation. Yeah, it's one of the meanings, okay, but not all of them. I may make a video on the etymology of Kabbalah one day. Reception of the secrets. It signifies that degree of divine clairvoyance in which ordinary vision becomes paralyzed, everything earthly vanishes, and the soul, free and pure, unites with its spirit, or God. However, the true meaning of such a word is superintendent, supervisor, inspector, watcher, master builder, and is equivalent to the Sanskrit word evapta. Paul the Apostle, which is Agharta, used the adjective epopte for himself, showing that he was an initiate who had received the highest degree of the mysteries. By calling himself an epopte, Saint-Yves seems to be revealing his inner world as an initiate and confides something about his experience in an altered state of consciousness. Wrapped in a shroud that covers his head, hermetically closing his ears, his eyes, and his nostrils, leaving only an empty space for the mouth, with his arms crossed over his chest, he offers himself to the angel of death and surrenders himself entirely to God. Very similar to how the Egyptians would, if you imagine like a pharaoh or something like a mummy, right? With the arms crossed and so on. So you're closing the body. In 1893, living in Versailles, Saint-Yves lost his wife. He transformed the deceased's room into a funeral chamber, where he would go often to seek advice from her soul. Bartlett, his disciple and only biographer, explains, this kind of communication had nothing in common with Spiritism, the one I spoke about, which is really famous in Brazil. We shall see, in regard to his doctrines, that he always strongly condemned its practices. He had no mediumistic faculty, and he did not use any medium. His ceremonies, far more sacred, belonged to an entirely different realm. Such acts, like his out-of-body experiences, were part of that secret knowledge which Saint-Yves never wished to make public, stating, "If I published everything I know in full, half of the inhabitants of Paris would go mad, and the other half hysterical." Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen now in the age of Aquarius, so that's why you gotta start to learn all this stuff, so you don't get neither mad nor hysterical. It was the soul of his wife, during one of his contacts with that other dimension, who inspired him in the idea of the Archeometer, the precision instrument of the high sciences and its corresponding arts, and its cosmometric translator, its cosmological gauge. Before we delve into more details of the Archeometer, let's speak a bit more about the earthly life of its creator. So, this is already pretty long, so I'm not sure. I was maybe going to talk about the first thing right here, but I can show you before we finish the video. The index, okay? So I was reading the Brazilian footnotes of the book, not the footnotes, sorry, the commentary, so which is before all of this. But then we have here the first part, and you're going to see how they talk a lot about Christianity, but if you saw at the beginning, they were also talking about Vedic stuff, and you can see the parallels between Egyptian stuff and so on. So don't be attached to one way of seeing stuff. This is just so you can explain. You need words, okay? But don't be attached to the specific words that they're going to use here. It's just a synthesis of knowledge. Then we have the other book, which goes a little bit deeper into the alphabets, the word, and the Archeometer, and so on, which is really nice. So you see, it's a really long book. Then the adaptations, how you can use it, like I was talking about architecture, musical. But yeah, probably not gonna do this today then. On the next video, I'm gonna start from here. Well, actually, let me know if you want to see this other stuff, which I would skip, about the earthly life of him, like where he's coming from, him and his wife, like his background basically. Either we can skip it or not. Let me know in the comments. And another thing, which is if you want to contribute, I will leave the link in the description. So this is in GitHub, so basically it's an open source thing. I'm gonna be making the translations and making the videos out of them. So if you want to contribute to either the translations, there's the original here, or to anything else, just let me know. I cannot put the Portuguese version here because obviously it would be piracy. The original one is fine because it's super old already anyway. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the video. I hope you liked, and let me know what you think about the format as well, of me reading it and making the commentary. That's it. See you.